for Western and Northern Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, and that tends to fizzle away later in the day as higher pressure builds, and that higher pressure is going to lead to widespread sunny skies on Thursday and into Friday, and that means widespread hot air returning.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
and you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
ambulances and water to Russell to King's Cross. I understand what you're saying. And Russell Square. Russell Square is we're going to have it as a major incident, so we'll get ambulances to you wherever I can. Okay, thanks, mate.
it's 20 years since 7/7. Neither Sadiq Khan or Sir Keir Starmer mentioned Islamist terrorism in their statements, and
the only solution is jihad by the armies of the Muslim countries.
Have our politicians made the jihadi problem worse, not better? Also tonight, the one-in, one-out migrant deal with the French is in tatters, and are some people in the army too fat to fight? Plus, from 10 p.m, we can reveal a devastating report about an organisation that tried to call me and GB News Islamophobic. I cannot wait for that. And...
Oi, you! Shut your mouth and look at my wad! Loads of money!
This is a journey into money. Loads of money.
Well, proof. Labour are driving out millionaires and...
The European problem, the European Jewish problem.
More outrageous anti-Semitism on Britain's streets, but... Were police right to arrest an 83-year-old woman for appearing to support Palestine action? On my panel tonight, we've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist Benjamin Butterworth and the former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. And then, of course, from 11 p.m. until midnight, for all the front pages and any breaking news, it's Late Edition. So get ready, Britain. Here we go. Labour is giving £60 million to illegal migrants to help them fight deportation. Next.
Very good evening to you. The top story tonight at 9. The names of the 52 victims of the 7/7 London bombings have been read out today at a memorial service marking 20 years since the attacks. Families, survivors and first responders gathered at St Paul's Cathedral, where white petals fell as the names were read out by loved ones. 4 candles were also carried through the cathedral for each site of the 2005 bombings, which killed 52 and injured more than 700. King Charles and Sir Keir Starmer called for unity as events across London paid tribute today to the lives that were lost. In Texas, the death toll has now risen to at least 91 after flash floods have ripped through Kerr County in the early hours of Friday last week. At least 27 young girls and staff from a Christian summer camp are among the dead, with dozens still missing and search efforts now into the 4th day. President Donald Trump has signed a major disaster declaration as questions mount over whether warnings were timely or effective. More storms are on the way, with flood alerts still in place until at least tonight. Here, meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer is facing a fresh backbench revolt over controversial plans to overhaul special needs education. There are reports that ministers are poised to scrap the system, which ensures pupils with special needs, such as autism and ADHD, get personalised support at school. It currently costs the taxpayer £12 billion a year. Senior party figures are warning the reforms risk becoming welfare Mark II as the government faces mounting pressure to balance the books on the public's finances. A British teenager jailed in Dubai for having sex with a 17-year-old girl has now been released and is back in the UK. Marcus Fakana was sentenced to a year in prison there after a holiday romance with another British teen. He received a royal pardon, though, from Dubai's ruler as part of an Eid amnesty. Campaigners say the 19-year-old believed the girl was of age and claimed the law shouldn't be applied so strictly to tourists. His family have said they are over the moon to have him home. And Donald Trump has tonight reignited global trade tensions, slapping 25% tariffs on imports from Japan and South Korea. They start on the 1st of August. That move ends a 90-day pause and revives Trump's stance, accusing both countries of unfair trade practices. Now the US president is turning his attention to the BRICS alliance, warning that any country supporting the bloc will face an extra 10% tariff, with, he says, no exceptions. BRICS leaders say, though, the surge in tariffs threaten global trade, but Trump insists it's just about protecting American interests. You're up to date just after 9 o'clock. I'll be back with the news here at 10. Now, though, we can head over to Patrick.
Good evening. Labour is handing illegal immigrants 60 million quid to help them fight to stay in Britain. Labour will increase legal aid fees for asylum cases by a third after small boat crossings surpassed 20,000 for the year. The Ministry of Justice has announced that the fees paid to lawyers to represent migrants fighting to stay in Britain will go up by 30%. So this will cost you, the taxpayer, around £61 million, up from £47 million. Now, they say they need to do this to help clear the 90,000-strong backlog of asylum claims. Anyone want to guess how many of that 90,000 will be deported? The only reason they're in this mess is because they scrapped the Tory policy that nobody who arrived in Britain illegally could ever claim asylum. And today, utter humiliation for the Prime Minister. Do you remember this?
France has now agreed that they will now start to intervene in French waters in order to prevent small boats. That hasn't happened yet, but the previous government spent 6 years trying to persuade them. They have now agreed as a result of the pressure that we've been putting on, the discussions that we have had, and we need that to start.
Yay, OK, so she said that the French were going to stop the boats in the water. Well, then we got the news that Sir Keir Starmer was planning on announcing a one-in, one-out migrant deal with France when President Emmanuel Macron arrives in the UK tomorrow. So, Sir Keir Starmer, they've rolled out the red carpet, you know. Oh, look at that. We've got British and French flags lining the Mall up to Buckingham Palace. The Prime Minister, he's been all over Macron when they met up. Oh, Sir Keir Starmer's let the French plunder British fishing waters for 12 more years and didn't say anything when just a few days later the French impounded a British fishing vessel that they claim was fishing illegally. So this one-in, one-out deal is big, all right? It's the thing that will help Sir Keir Starmer finally do this.
Serious answer is to smash the gangs.
We have to take those gangs down, to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade. To smash these gangs.
OK, so we're all set to announce this deal. The next couple of days, Emmanuel Macron's here. We're going to announce it. And then today, EU nations are blocking it. So Italy, Spain, Greece, Malta and Cyprus have expressed, quotes, serious concerns over this migrant deal. So they are going to try to block it. Emmanuel Macron will obviously side with the EU and poof, there goes another attempt by Sir Keir Starmer to stop the invasion of Britain in the Channel. There is a solution, of course, Sir Keir, but one that you appear unwilling to do. Deport, deport, deport. Right, let's get the thoughts of my panel. We have got journalist Carol Malone, another journalist, Benjamin Butterworth, the former chair of the Tory party, Sir J. Berry. Thank you very much. Carol, I'll start with you. So there's two stories rolled into one there. First things first, the one-in, one-out deal with the French appears to be absolutely dead in the water because the EU nations are going to block it.
It was always a stupid idea. What's the point of one in, one out? It should be none in, all out. I mean, that just makes much more sense. You know, it's just a self-defeating plan. But, you know, this is yet another international humiliation for Keir Starmer. You know, he was banking on the Albanian Prime Minister to take some of our people and process them. He said he didn't. He was talking about. Macron is now about to make a fool of him. You know, Macron is almost in charge of the EU now. He would have known the disquiet about this one-in, one-out plan, but he didn't say anything to Starmer because he wanted to get all his money and take it, kept on taking it. And now it's not going to happen. And as you rightly say, this is just weeks after he's given the fishing rights away to our waters for yet another 12 years. Does Starmer not get it? The EU hates us. They will continue to make a monkey out of us, and he is letting them do it, and he's just let them do it over this. He's got to stop expecting the French to control our immigration policy. He has to do it, and the way to do it is to stop the incentives, stop the benefits, stop the houses, get rid of them when they come, and do not let the EU or anyone else control our immigration
policy. I mean, Jake, the centrepiece of this state visit with Emmanuel Macron was going to be, as far as we were aware, the big announcement of a one-in, one-out deal with the French, where we were all supposed to be absolutely cock-a-hoop with. Well, that now essentially can't happen, can it? Because some EU nations are going to decide to block it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. Of course, as well as the blocking of the one-in, one-out deal, which, look, Carol's right. We should be not in, all out. Yeah. But if you've got to have something, this is literally better than nothing. But also you saw the French police officers allegedly slashing the dinghies, which is going to be their new technique. Isn't that really odd that the first camera crew on site happened to be BBC, it also happened to be the one-year anniversary of the Labour government? You'd almost think that the French are doing this to try and make France look good just, the day before the French president visits? Look, ultimately, the Prime Minister needs to accept that the person who is responsible for securing the borders of the United Kingdom is the Prime Minister United Kingdom. It is not France, it's not Italy, it's not Spain, it's not Portugal. Guess what? They want these people gone and they're delighted they've come to Britain. The only people who can do anything about it are the British. So come on, Keir Starmer, stand up for Britain.
Yeah, well, Benjamin, I mean, I do posit to you that he's been mugged off by the Mauritians, he's been mugged off by the Spanish, been mugged off by the Americans over the bombing of Iran, and now he's about to be very publicly mugged off by Emmanuel Macron and the European Union.
No, I don't think that makes sense at all. He's been very well respected on the global stage and very successful as well. That's how we've got 3 new trade deals in the last couple of months. But what I'd say on this is that it's, of course, complete nonsense to say that only the British can deport these people because you're deporting them to somewhere.
Home.
And in most of these cases, if you're sending them to the place where they most recently came, it's France. So you can't do that without working with France. This shows just how much this hate everyone, complain about everyone attitude gets us nowhere, because the very point of having good relations with the EU is what will make this returns deal possible.
That is so typical of the liberal elite in London.
We've been working with France for the past decade. They've had the thick end of £1 billion from this country. That's how we've been working with them. And still, as Patrick says, the phrase, they're mugging us off.
But hang on, they have agreed to this scheme. It's other countries that might cause a problem.
Please do not tell me Macron, who was one of the major players in the EU, did not know this is what was going to happen. What they're saying in all these countries, they're saying if people get sent back to France, the fear is when they get sent back, they'll get sent back to their home country, where they may be persecuted. The people arriving here, the majority, are not fleeing from countries where they're being persecuted. They're fleeing from poverty. No, but the ones... I just said the worry is that if they get back to France, they'll be sent back to their country of origin.
Yes.
But who cares about that? Because most of them are economic migrants. They're not going to be persecuted. They're just going to be poor. But here they get a free house.
This is an interesting point. So the reason why some of those countries, they are known as quotes unquote frontier countries, so the likes of Italy and Spain, etc., where some migrants can basically access the European Union. So Spain has a couple of enclaves in Morocco, Melilla and Ceuta, where if you manage to just walk into those, then technically you're in the EU, despite never leaving the continent of Africa. Italy, we know, have got certain outposts like Lampedusa, the island there, where they can arrive.
Well, they should get Keir Starmer as their Prime Minister and give them all away.
But just finish this point, because it's important. The reason why they're kicking off is that they are worried that if we then returned people to France, France could then return them to the first country of entry under the Dublin Agreement, and that's why they're wound up about it. So Emmanuel Macron will have known this when he's led Sir Keir Starmer down the garden path, and he's chosen to say nothing about it. He's not our friend, is he? And Keir Starmer's, well, frankly, been embarrassed about it.
This is just window dressing. It's stage management for Emmanuel Macron's visit to the UK. He doesn't want to come here and be given a bad time because the French, they've been paid hundreds of millions of pounds
over 10 years.
of waving people through to come to the UK. So they basically thought, well, we'll offer this deal. It's collapsed before he's even managed to arrive. We'll pretend we're going to slash the dinghies. I'd be amazed if we ever see that happen again. So basically, so he can have a nice state visit and Keir Starmer can look...
He's been played. What's that, Benjamin? Sorry, go on. He's been played, hasn't he?
Well, no, because, I mean, the deal hasn't collapsed and it also hasn't even been announced, so we'll probably find out in the next coming days. And given that Macron is clearly at the centre of the EU, then, you know, with a successful state visit, he may use that power to not listen to countries like Malta or Cyprus, which are obviously very small. I'd also just point out that the Spanish enclave in Morocco has walls and fencing like you wouldn't believe.
Well,
so they make it pretty hard to get in.
You're right. I've been there. I went there a good few years ago. Yes, there are walls around it. Unfortunately, what happened was that there were quite a lot of African warlords that were moving in, and they were able, using in some cases, by the way, flamethrowers to get through those fences. And now, if you do go to Ceuta, for example, it basically does look like an African country. So that is a problem.
Why do we have to worry, Patrick, about people being sent to their country of origin when that country is not at war and they're not being persecuted? They're just poor. Why should we have to worry about that? Why should our taxpayers have to pay to feed and house the tens of thousands that are coming here every month?
Let me stick with you on this, Carol, because the other aspect to that diatribe that I've just given there was £61 million of taxpayers' money supposedly going to help illegal migrants get legal aid to stay in Britain, an increase of about 30%. I don't think that's going to go down that well.
I mean, how can this government say it is intent on tackling illegal immigration when that is happening? It's clearly they're not that interested. You can't be giving people money to fight us, our government, our processes, and then say you're intent on curbing illegal immigration. The two don't go together.
But this proposal would cut down heavily on things like that, because the one in, one out is if you've got a link to someone in Britain, so you have a clearly strong claim, then you come, and everyone else has to go back straight away.
Do you
and so
really
that will
believe
cut
they're gonna
down.
chuck people
But hang
out?
on, that will cut down on legal aid because there won't be the appeals. That will cut down on the hotels.
Gosh.
That will cut down on the casework that we pay for in civil servants. So it's a massively better and more efficient way to do it.
We haven't returned anyone. We returned so few people. 90-odd% of people get granted asylum. So do you really believe they're going to send them back?
Well, the returns are significantly up since the last July when Keir
they're
Starmer
not.
became
For
Prime
China
Minister.
migrants.
They are, and
Not-
we've had
no,
the
not
biggest
for China
return
migrants.
flights
They're
ever.
Not for China migrants. I'll tell you what
Most of them volunteered to go.
Yeah, and
but I tell you what really sticks, and I know you're going to talk about it later in the show, but I've spoken about this before, is you've also at the same time got the government taking away educational healthcare plans from the most vulnerable children in society. My son has an EHCP. My son has an EHCP. And what you don't get is help with legal expenses when you are fighting to get the support that your child needs. And as a parent who's had to fight, like millions of parents and grandparents who'll be watching this show, the fact that the money that could support my son and my family, or any other families in the similar situation with a child with additional needs, is being given to migrants who shouldn't even be in the country in the first place, is an absolute disgrace.
It is.
I mean, look, the taxpayer being asked to fork out for this, there's a backlog of 90,000, roughly speaking. I mean, I remain resolutely unconvinced about whether or not that's true. I suspect the real number's quite a bit higher. But Benjamin, most of them are going to be allowed to stay. The only reason Labour are in this mess is because they repealed the Tories' policy that nobody who's entered Britain illegally will ever be allowed to claim asylum. So now we're having to be paid for a decision the Labour government made, which will ultimately result in more illegal immigrants staying in Britain, probably at the taxpayer's expense.
Well, claiming asylum isn't illegal, and so it's not as simple as saying that coming through the Channel makes them illegal, because what are the legal
routes?
It
was. It used to be. Now it's not. Now it's not.
It was made illegal.
But also, actually, lots of the problem with the numbers that are staying where it seems illegitimate is at the court stage rather than the government stage. It's often the Home Office fighting individual judges' rulings, and I think that's where you probably solve it to get those numbers down.
So what, get a load of right-wing judges in?
Well, no. I don't know, but there
is something I agree with you.
But there is clearly a problem with the judges in these migration cases making
most of them are in the cabinet.
Blatantly unreasonable
most of that legal community in the cabinet these days.
One of the big things that would save a lot of time is when we have these pointless age tests where you see these stories about there's like a Sudanese man with a receding hairline and a grey beard who's 6 foot odd, and he is claiming to be a child, right? And then it has to go through the courts. If we were allowed to do dental checks or wrist x-rays or whatever it is that you would normally do, then that would be fine. But of course that appears to be against their human rights.
Just do none of that and chuck them out, because they're clearly not children. I mean, why do we have to go through all
these
these
Do they have a human
steps?
right to repeatedly perjure themselves in court? Well, that's what it is. If they're lying, they're making a mockery of the British judicial system. It's perjury. It's a criminal offence. They should be locked up.
Well, tomorrow, I think it is, that Emmanuel Macron sets foot on British soil. He'll be taking down the Mall with the French flag and the British flag, two great flags there, lining the way to Buckingham Palace. We wait with bated breath to see whether or not Sir Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper announced that they've done some migrant deal with him. But from what we can reveal tonight, it appears that that's impossible, so it will not be announced. It will just be, thank you very much, Emmanuel, how many more fish do you want? But there we go. Anyway, talking of things we're just giving away for free, here we go. 54,321 quid in tax-free cash. All of that money could be yours. If you've not entered it, why not? You'd have to be mad not to enter this. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up, the Prime Minister has refused to rule out introducing a wealth tax as he scrambles to plug the massive financial black hole basically created by his own MPs. There could be another backbench Labour revolt. I'm also going to be talking as well about the anniversary of 7/7 and talking a little bit about our Prime Minister and his legal back catalogue and wondering whether or not the jihadi threat is actually worse than it was then. But before that... So that video has left many people questioning the fighting capability of what appears to be some rather fat members of our armed forces. Are we too fat to fight? That's next.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. So coming up, why could the Prime Minister not mention Islamist extremism in his memorial for 7/7? But first, is the army too fat to fight? It's time now for the head-to-head. Thousands lined the streets of London on Saturday for a Pride parade, which remarkably featured members of the Royal Navy and the Air Force. But it was this video of some British Army cadets that raised many eyebrows on social media. Shall we have a little look? Right, Right, so many people online questioned those reservists' fighting capabilities because they looked really fat. It was only in December that the government admitted more than 10,000 armed forces personnel were not medically fit for war, with a further 14,000 only having, quote, limited deployability, meaning they could only fight under certain conditions, which is presumably if no one invades us. Indeed, whistleblowers have warned that the Royal Marines may be lowering standards for female recruits, warning that British lives could be in danger. So we've got a combination of things going on there, haven't we? Tonight I am asking, are some members of our army just too fat to fight? Let's get the thoughts of you with gbnews.com/your say. But joining me now is former British Army spokesperson Major Mike Shearer and the body positivity influencer George Keywood. Thank you very much. Major Mike, I'll start with you. When you see that video, do you think that, frankly, we're too fat to fight?
Well, look, I think, as you said, I believe they are cadets, but notwithstanding, there were a number of people on display there that, quite frankly, in my opinion, and I'm not a doctor, should go and see one, because I think their health is probably at risk at such a young age. In addition to that, it is the wrong message and the wrong image that the armed forces want to be showing. But even if we go to the army now, it is now the case in today's army that a soldier can now self-diagnose himself as not good for the day. He can say, no, I'm not feeling great. I'm not joining in with training. Now, this has got to be wrong. I mean, I did 30-odd years in the military.
Right.
And apart from a time when I'd either ripped a muscle or broken a bone, I didn't miss a day.
Yes.
Now, to give some context to what you just said, Patrick, there are 13.5, nearly 14,000 people sick, lame or lazy. I guarantee you that most of them will be in the lazy category. And you can break that down into the Army, 7,000 of them, Navy, 3,000, smaller organization, RAF, 4,000. Now, the armed forces in general, or collectively, are 108,000. And the MOD's acceptable rate of non-deployable is 15%.
All right.
Now, my rough sums say that they're about there. And that's not acceptable.
Well, let me come back to you, Major Mike, because I want to bring George in. George, what we're looking at here is the army of the obese, really, wandering through a Pride event at London on Saturday. You know, they're not ready to fight, are they, George?
Well, you may say they're not ready to fight, but let's see who will win out of a fight, you or them. I mean, these people are trained, you know, they're being trained. Like the man said himself, they're cadets. They're not ready yet. You know, let's talk what they're like in 6 months or a year from now once they've shed the weight. I'm pretty sure they'll beat all three of us down. You know, I mean, ultimately, they're in the process to be trained and be taught to be soldiers. Yeah, you've got to start at some point. You know, my dad was in World War II, died at 89 years old in 2016, come back on the D-Day boats and everything, right? And he was a big guy when he started the army. And to be fair, he was a chef corporal, so, you know, obviously he didn't have a, you know, on the field job or whatever, but, you know, ultimately, by the time he had left the war and he came out of it, he was a skinny man. You know, it's the army that can train people and make them better people, and that's what they're there to do, isn't it? So, you know...
All right. Well, OK, hey, fair enough. And ultimately, you know, they've joined the cadets. Fair play to anyone who joins the cadets. Presumably that means that at least psychologically you are willing to fight and die for Britain. And, all right, you know, I don't want to be too unduly harsh on them. I do wonder whether or not Vladimir Putin is quaking in his boots, seeing them, you know, wander through a Pride event with, with more roles than Greg, some of them, bless them. But... Mike, is there any condition on those people losing the weight, or can they just crack on?
Well, the army, I can speak about the army for sure. The army have a great policy in most training situations, and it is train in, do not select out. But I'm afraid when it comes to long-term working the system and not being fit to fight, then you shouldn't be in a uniform. Look, regiments now are under pressure to receive recruits from training basic military training, for want of a better expression, and they have to receive them at risk. That means that they're receiving a soldier's pay when they're not fully trained. And I find that chipping away at standards is not very helpful at all.
OK. I suppose, George, well, a bit like what Major Mike has said there, is that it could easily see as though we are lowering the standards in order to try to maybe deal with the recruitment crisis or something. We're kind of down-skilling, in a sense. And just two questions in one here for you. I do wonder whether or not, members of the actual armed forces, people who are, to go on the front lines and the SAS, they look at that and they actually feel really quite disheartened because they're thinking that's going to give a bit of a bad rep, really, for the state of the British Army.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can see where you're coming from, but at the same time, this government's very desperate to build up a good army, aren't they? I mean, let's put it this way, that you've got Vladimir Putin with a very good army, so they're desperate to match that and make ourselves look like very strong competition. So I think in that respect, you've got to lower your standards because you want as many people to join as possible. I mean, you look at the younger generations these days, none of them want to get out of bed, let alone join the army. So, I think you've got to respect anybody that's willing to put their life on the line, or at least commit to doing so for this country. And I think it doesn't matter what size they are, where they come from, they've taken the bold step to be able to sign up and commit to do what they're going to do, which is quite a big step in themselves. I mean, anybody that doesn't agree with that, I mean, Jesus, I don't know what you could agree with.
Oh, all right, OK, we're going to have to go. Just sorry, Mark, I can see you want to make one more point, but we can maybe come back on and talk about it when they've lost the weight. There we go. British Army spokesperson Major Mike Shearer and body positivity influencer George Keywood, thank you very, very much. Well, intrigued to get your views on that at home. But coming up... So police arrested more than 29 protesters during a demonstration in support of Palestine action over the weekend. But did officers take it too far when they nicked an 83-year-old woman? I'll talk about that shortly. First, though, the Prime Minister has refused to rule out introducing a wealth tax. We also reveal that it's no longer a myth that a load of millionaires are, in fact, leaving Britain. We'll talk about that with former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie, and at the top of the next hour, at 7/7, 20 years on. Have we actually made the jihadi problem worse? Stay tuned.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat wave across Europe is increasingly becoming confined to eastern areas of the country. Temperatures here could locally still be 5-10 degrees above normal for the year. On the edge of that heat, though, there are some heavy thunderstorms breaking out for the Balkans and over the Alps. Generally further towards the west, though, temperatures now easing back towards average, but northerly winds bringing a touch of cloud to parts of Iberia, as well as Madeira and Tenerife. Generally, though, for many areas over the next few days, there will be a lot of sunshine around.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We will see some heavy showers clearing overnight, but clear spells and largely dry weather return by dawn, increasingly sunny and increasingly warm during the next few days. Now, we've got low pressure clearing to the east. That low pressure brought us some unsettled weather over the weekend, cool conditions as well. It continues to bring heavy showers overnight to eastern parts of the country, some thunderstorms and some persistent rain. But further west, largely clear and certainly more widely clear by dawn. Under those clear skies, a fresh start to the day on Tuesday, temperatures ranging between 8 and 13 Celsius. But plenty of sunshine around first thing, certainly across central parts of the UK. Start off with barely a cloud in the sky through the Midlands and central southern England. Either side of that, there will be some patchy cloud into West Wales, southwest England, and some showers running down the North Sea coast into East Anglia. Thicker cloud awaits across parts of western Northern Ireland, and that cloud also starting to drift into the Western Isles. Some patchy cloud into the north of Scotland, otherwise Scotland's largely cloud-free. Plenty of sunshine, and that sunshine causing temperatures to rise quickly through the morning. But there will be further showers into eastern England. They tend to fade away by early afternoon. Still some cloud here and thicker cloud across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. A few spots of rain associated with this. High teens in the northwest, where we've got the sunshine elsewhere, low 20s to mid 20s fairly widely. And then we start Wednesday with plenty of sunshine once again towards the southeast, thicker cloud towards the northwest, some outbreaks of rain, mostly light and patchy for western and northern Scotland as well as Northern Ireland. And that tends to fizzle away later in the day as higher pressure builds, and that higher pressure is going to lead to widespread sunny skies on Thursday and into Friday, and that means widespread hot air returning.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. So, coming up, why couldn't the Prime Minister mention Islamist terrorism in his 7/7 bombing anniversary speech? And a little while ago, there was an organisation that decided that they want to try to smear myself and GB News in an attempt to make out that I specifically was Islamophobic. That did have severe personal consequences for my safety. Well, later on in the show, we can reveal that there's been an expose into that organisation that fundamentally discredits the way that they went about gathering their information. I fully intend to hold all the people responsible to account, and I will be doing that in the next hour. So please stay tuned for that. But first, the Prime Minister could be facing a second Labour Party revolt over reform to special needs support for school children. So this is just days after that humiliating climb down over welfare reforms. The embarrassing U-turns on changes to PIP and on winter fuel payments has left the Chancellor with a £5 billion hole to fill. And earlier on today, Downing Street refused to rule out a new wealth tax after former Labour leader, Lord Kinnock, said that his party would be willing to explore it. Economists have warned that this could trigger a fresh millionaire exodus after Britain lost an astonishing 10,800 millionaires overseas last year. Joining me now is the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie. OK, so, Kelvin, is it a bad thing that so many millionaires are leaving?
It's a shocking thing. After all, that non-dom clear out by them, which was another great triumph of envy and jealousy, actually, they paid, forget about any money overseas, they paid $8 billion to our exchequer. We needed $8 billion. That would have funded their last U-turn. So that was shocking. But what is worse is that we're now that the super rich have gone, we're now getting down among the averagely wealthy. They're doing okay. We want those people. We want them to stay. I was at Ascot on the Tuesday. I'm sorry to say this. For your left-wing viewers, I know it's a shock. People actually enjoying themselves wearing a top hat. Anyway, I was there. Among my party was a guy who works for St. James's Place Wealth Management. And he said on his client list, there were no billionaires. There were no super wealthy. He said, but what there were a load of reasonably well-off people. He said, what was unusual to him, and actually was damaging to his business, was that all of them looked as though they were trying to work out ways to go and live in Cyprus, the south of France, go somewhere. So we're watching not just the very, very wealthy who are very, very mobile. We're now watching dentists, the small-time entrepreneurs, people who've run the shop and done rather well. We want these people. The people we don't want are the people who are sponging off the state morning, noon, and night.
As you will see, sorry, Kevin.
We've got to get a grip on this. Otherwise, all that's going to happen is that there's going to be nobody in the country who is going to be paying taxation, or there might be 27 people all paying 48 billion. It is ridiculous, and we must stop it. We're turning, we're turning a flood into a torrent of wealth leaving our country. What is wrong with this damn government?
Well, for context, the UK is set to lose more millionaires than Russia and China. I mean, really, we're set to lose more millionaires than any country in the developed world. But I do think it's interesting to point Russia and China out there. So they're going to go, and you make a vital point, Kelvin. So they are wealth creators. They are people who often employ people. They're often people who take risks. They're often people who pay a huge amount of tax, clearly. And also, they are the kind of people that can act as inspiration for aspirational people. And therefore, you can maybe want to be one of those. I think most people in Britain should want to try to be as wealthy as they possibly can, right? If they're all going, who are we replacing them with? And I feel as though we are replacing them with people who are happy to come to Britain, bring over various different relatives, either legally or illegally, and ponce off the state for their entire lives.
Yes, and that turns out to be bizarrely true when you look at the benefits bill and the way it's exploded this last 5 years. Look, what's also happening is that within Parliament, the Parliamentary Labour Party have suddenly discovered we have power and this rather hopeless Prime Minister doesn't have any. So any time now onwards that Starmer says, actually, we want to increase taxes on something, that cannot happen. They cannot cut anymore. So all they can do now is actually say, I'm sorry, we're going to do a number of left-wing things. So other things to be looking at will be rent controls for landlords, there will be wealth tax, and there'll be a whole series of things which actually are designed to make, let's be honest about it, the middle classes poorer. But it is the middle classes who are the only people who are now funding our country. He doesn't understand that because he hasn't got any power anymore. Reeves hasn't got any power anymore. They basically have to dance to the tune of the Parliamentary Labour Party.
Yeah, I mean, Bridget Phillipson was on Camilla Tominey yesterday and said some absolutely, in my view, yet again, some very horrific things about the private schools. She doesn't seem to care at all about parents who've had to take their children out of private schools, some of whom, by the way, will be children with special educational needs, for whom the private schools, they were scrimping and saving their entire lives just to be able to get their child into an environment where they felt they were safe. And now...
Okay, can I just tell you about that?
Go on.
Tell you about that. If you... I feel very, very... I know a little bit about this through my own wider domestic circumstances, right? You have a child in a state school with SEND, right?
Special education needs.
Education and learning, any of those issues, right? Honestly, their lives are tortured. They are bullied. They are mocked. They're humiliated morning, noon and night. I know a case where they used to have to keep the child in the classroom at playtime, at their playtime or their break time, right? Because if they went out there, they were treated in a disgraceful, bullying manner. That's what you get, right? Whereas in some of these paid-for schools, they are treated in slightly a different way. Honestly, but all SEND children do suffer at schools, but in the state schools can be absolutely horrendous.
Okay. All right. Well, Kelvin, thank you very much. It's always tremendous to have you on the show. As former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie, we await another Labour U-turn, no doubt, over support for children with special educational needs. But coming up at 10 p.m.
Ambulances and water to to King's Cross. And the same with and Russell Square. Russell Square is a priority. We're going to have it as a major incident.
Why couldn't the Prime Minister mention Islamist terrorism when he was reviewing 7/7? Plus, I have some shocking breaking news about a Muslim media organisation that tried to call me and GB News Islamophobic. I frankly can't wait for that, but next. Were the police right to arrest an 83-year-old woman for allegedly supporting Palestine action? Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle from Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. So coming up, why couldn't the Prime Minister mention Islamist terrorism in his 7/7 bombing anniversary speech? But first, the Met Police Commissioner has defended the arrest of an 83-year-old woman on terrorism offences on Saturday during a protest in support of the now banned Palestine Action Group. Sir Mark Rowley said that the law doesn't have an age limit, adding that it was, quote, not about protest, but an organisation committing serious criminality. So meanwhile, the Telegraph have revealed that the group, who were prescribed under the Terrorism Act last week, have created a secret website, not so secret anymore, is it, to recruit more activists, vowing to continue action, quote, regardless of the name it falls under. Well, joining me now is former Met Police Officer Graham Weston. Graham, thank you very much. I am at pains to stress that obviously this lady has been arrested, nothing has been proven, no charges have been brought against her yet, and she is obviously innocent until proven guilty. Where do you stand, though, on the idea that an 83-year-old woman was arrested for allegedly supporting Palestine Action?
Evening, Patrick. There is no age limit in breaking the law or committing offences as such. So the group were prescribed. Showing support for a prescribed organisation is an offence. So officers have made a lawful arrest, in my view. It's, as you're right to say, no charges yet. They've been bailed. Any decisions about charges rest then with the Crown Prosecution Service. But for me, you can't differentiate between ages of people. What is the age limit we go to then for not being able to commit offences? So I think the Commission is absolutely spot on. There is no age limit. It's highly likely officers actually making the arrests at Parliament Square didn't actually check what age the lady was before they arrested her. So for me, it's a non-event, the age of the person being arrested.
Yeah, there's also probably quite a good chance that the officers making the arrest did not particularly want to nick an 83-year-old woman, but perhaps felt as though they were left with no choice. And you know, another argument would be, you know, maybe she's old enough to know better, actually. But when it comes to speaking more generally and broadly about Palestine action, if there is mass civil disobedience, which is, you know, serious numbers of people coming out to the streets every Saturday saying that they support them, yeah, are the police realistically going to have to arrest all of them?
But that would be a challenge to the police, depending on the numbers involved. Clearly, you can't go arresting if we're talking thousands or hundreds even. We saw this with Just Stop Oil, when there was hundreds of people blocking bridges. Police could only arrest so many at a time. And the custody centres very, very quickly filled up, and then they had to find other places to take prisoners. There was people being detained in London, being driven to some of the county forces. So that would be a logistical problem, but it's one the police can actually address and deal with. It depends on the numbers attending, if they are showing support, and what level of support that is. Then there'd have to be like a management decision as to who you arrest, how many you arrest, and at what time. Or do you just then take another course of action to find out who they are committing the offences and maybe proceed by a slower method?
Yeah, surely it's concerning that there are, you know, members of Parliament who, you know, were very vocal and voted against the prescription of Palestine action, which would indicate where they stand on that particular issue. I'm not going to accuse any of them of now supporting a banned terrorist organisation, of course, but, you know, is it concerning for people like yourself that we have people, and later we're talking about 7/7 and whether or not we've actually, things have got significantly worse since 7/7, you know, we have huge numbers of people in Britain who are A, willing to support a recently prescribed terrorist group, or B, perfectly willing to support some other more old school terror groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, you know, Hizb ut-Tahrir, those kind of people. We just walk amongst them, don't we?
Yeah, it is slightly concerning that once the Home Secretary makes a decision, clearly she's got a lot of facts and paperwork in front of her that she's looked at and reviewed, made a decision that this group needed prescribing correctly, in my view. It is then concerning we've got people within society that seem to disagree with that, then disagree with it by committing offences.
I just want to play this clip, actually. So this was taken yesterday, I believe, and it is a man in the Preston area at a rally, as I understand, in support of Palestine action or something loosely speaking that way inclined anyway. Here's what he said.
The story is not Hamas. The story is the 77-year colonial era project gone horribly wrong. Our problem, the European problem, was passed on to them. That's what we did. The European problem, the European Jewish problem, where the Europeans, they have been anti-Semitic for hundreds of years.
Yeah, the European Jewish problem he was talking about there on the streets. Not great.
No, but again, for me, from the words I could make out, I couldn't hear all of it. That doesn't fit within supporting a prescribed organisation.
No. It's just anti-Semitism on the streets, though, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, it's bordering that way. But again, you're then merging into public order type offences. And for public order offences, you need threatening behaviour, threatening or abusive behaviour. It has to be any causing harassment, harm, distress. Not just, and this is where some people have got it wrong, it doesn't just need to cause harassment, harm, distress. Clearly, those comments would cause harassment, harm, distress, but the actual words or behaviour need to be threatening or abusive. And that's where Public Order Act offences differ from the Terrorism Act offences that this group are now prescribed under.
Graham, thank you very much. Graham Wetton there, former Met Police officer. Cheers for that. So, coming up...
Ambulances and water to King's Cross. And the same with and Russell Square. Russell Square was in
So the Home Secretary, the Prime Minister, even the King failed to mention Islamist terrorism when they were commemorating the 20-year anniversary of 7/7. Why are they so afraid?
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We will see some heavy showers clearing overnight, but clear spells and largely dry weather return by dawn, increasingly sunny and increasingly warm during the next few days. Now, we've got low pressure clearing to the east. That low pressure brought us some unsettled weather over the weekend, cool conditions as well. It continues to bring heavy showers overnight to eastern parts of the country, some thunderstorms and some persistent rain. But further west, largely clear and certainly more widely clear by dawn. Under those clear skies, a fresh start to the day on Tuesday, temperatures ranging between 8 and 13 Celsius. But plenty of sunshine around first thing, certainly across central parts of the UK. Start off with barely a cloud in the sky through the Midlands and central southern England. Either side of that, there will be some patchy cloud into West Wales, southwest England, and some showers running down the North Sea coast into East Anglia. Thicker cloud awaits across parts of western Northern Ireland, and that cloud also starting to drift into the Western Isles. Some patchy cloud into the north of Scotland, otherwise Scotland's largely cloud-free. Plenty of sunshine, and that sunshine causing temperatures to rise quickly through the morning. But there will be further showers into eastern England. They tend to fade away by early afternoon. Still some cloud here and thicker cloud across Northern Ireland and western Scotland. A few spots of rain associated with this. High teens in the northwest, where we've got the sunshine elsewhere. Low 20s to mid 20s fairly widely. And then we start Wednesday with plenty of sunshine once again towards the southeast, thicker cloud towards the northwest, some outbreaks of rain, mostly light and patchy for western and northern Scotland as well as Northern Ireland. And that tends to fizzle away later in the day as higher pressure builds, and that higher pressure is going to lead to widespread sunny skies on Thursday and into Friday, and that means widespread hot air returning.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
Ambulances and water to King's Cross. And the same with and Russell Square. Russell Square was a priority. We're going to have it as a major incident, so we'll get ambulances to you wherever I can. Okay, thanks, mate.
It's 20 years since 7/7. Neither Sadiq Khan or Sir Keir Starmer mentioned Islamist terrorism in their statements, and
the only solution is jihad by the armies of the Muslim countries.
What lessons have we learned? Have our politicians made the jihadi problem worse, not better? Also tonight. Last year, a report by an organisation accused myself and GB News of Islamophobia. Tonight, I can reveal that they have been totally discredited, and it's time to hold those responsible to account. And
نفذت القوة الصاروخية في القوات المسلحة اليمنية.
So Iranian-backed Houthi terrorists stormed a British ship, and it looks as though that ship may now have been sunk. But by who? On my panel tonight, we've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist Benjamin Butterworth, and former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry. And what's that noise all about? I'll reveal all at 10:30 p.m. Oh, and don't forget to tune in to Late Edition, 11 p.m. until midnight, for all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages and any breaking news we get along the way. So get ready, Britain. Here we go. Sir Keir Starmer represented Islamists, and today he laid a wreath for 7/7 victims. Next.
Very good evening to you from the newsroom. The top story at 10. London has today marked 20 years since the 7/7 bombings, with a service held at St Paul's Cathedral, where the names of all 52 victims were read aloud. Families, survivors and the royal family joined together as thousands of white petals fell from the cathedral ceiling. Prince William laid flowers at the Hyde Park Memorial, while the Prime Minister and London Mayor held a minute's silence at the bombing sites. King Charles paid tribute to the spirit of unity that helped the capital heal after the attacks, and he said the horrors of the day would never be forgotten, but nor with the courage or the compassion and resilience that followed. Well, the latest breaking developments from Texas tonight. We now know that at least 95 people have died in floods there, with the White House just saying in the last few minutes that Donald Trump is planning to visit the scene of those devastating floods later this week. It took place in the early hours of Friday, killing at least 27 young children and staff from a Christian summer camp. They are among the dead, with dozens still missing as search efforts are now into their fourth day. President Trump has also previously signed a major disaster declaration as questions are mounting over whether warnings were timely or effective. More storms are also on the way, with flood alerts still in place throughout tonight and into next week. Here, Sir Keir Starmer is facing a fresh backbench revolt over controversial plans to overhaul special needs education. There are reports that ministers are poised to scrap the system, which ensures pupils with special needs get personalised support at school. It currently costs the taxpayer £12 billion every year. Senior party figures are warning the reforms risk becoming welfare Mark II as the government faces mounting pressure to balance the books. And returning to news in the US, Donald Trump has reignited global trade tensions, slapping 25% tariffs on imports from Japan and South Korea. The move ends a 90-day pause and revives Trump's hardline stance, accusing both countries of unfair trade practices. Now, the US president is turning his attention to the BRICS alliance, warning that any country supporting the bloc will face an extra 10% tariff with no exceptions. Leaders in BRICS, though, say the surge in tariffs threatens global trade, but Trump insists it's just about protecting American interests. And the government here says it will ban non-disclosure agreements used to silence victims of workplace harassment and discrimination. Planned changes to the Employment Rights Bill would make NDAs legally void, allowing victims to speak out freely. The Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner says it's time to, quote, stamp out the misuse of gagging clauses once and for all. The move comes as part of what ministers are calling the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in an hour. Now, though, it's over to Patrick.
Good evening. 20 years ago, this happened.
Something's gone badly wrong. We really don't know at the moment. It's loud bangs. We need ambulances and water to to King's Cross. I understand what you're saying. And Russell Square. Russell Square is a priority. We're going to have it as a major incident, so we'll get ambulances to you wherever I can. Okay, thanks, mate. Go down to the whole...
Islamist al-Qaeda jihadis blew themselves up on tubes and a bus, killing 52 people and injuring nearly 800 more. Not that you'd know who was responsible, reading the statements from Sir Keir Starmer and Sir Sadiq Khan earlier today. Look, they talked about hate and not giving in to those who wish to divide us. No mention of murderous jihadis there. And this clip from today might stick in the craw a little bit for a lot of people. Sir Keir Starmer represented notorious Islamist hate preacher Abu Qatada and argued that he should not be deported. He, of course, says he was only doing his job, which is true. Sadiq Khan also represented the leader of the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, in the early 2000s, attempting to help overturn his ban on coming to Britain. Again, he was just doing his job. Our current Attorney General, Lord Hermer, another man simply just doing his job, also represented a 9/11 mastermind, Mustafa al-Hossawi, who last year pleaded guilty to the murder of 2,900 people in the US attacks. Today, our Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, tweeted the usual guff about the country standing together against hate. Well, she is in charge of our borders, and I revealed on this very show a couple of weeks ago that human traffickers helping people to break into Britain across the Channel are pumping out ISIS propaganda. I worry that terrorists, like the ones who committed the 7/7 attacks, have come across the Channel and are now here in Britain. And that got me thinking, what lessons has Britain learnt since 7/7? Around 850 British citizens travelled to fight for ISIS, and around 40% have returned. Where are they now? We've had several more terrorist attacks. The Fishmongers Hall terrorist, Usman Khan, claimed to be rehabilitated before killing 2 people. Salman Abidi's Libyan family were refugees to Britain. He blew himself up in Manchester Arena, killing 22, including children. We've had a catalogue of other terrorist attacks, including at London Bridge, where one of the attackers, Quran Butt, appeared in a Channel 4 documentary called Jihadi Next Door, in which he unfurled an ISIS flag in Regent's Park in London. He went on to kill a lot of people. A report by the Henry Jackson Society found that 52% of British Muslims want to make it illegal to show a picture of the Prophet Muhammad, and 32% of British Muslims favour the implementation of Sharia law, and the same number support the declaration of Islam as the national religion. That is, of course, according to the Henry Jackson Society. Most worryingly, extreme views were generally more likely to be found in the youngest age cohort of 18 to 34-year-olds. We've got people calling for blasphemy laws. We've got people out on the streets last weekend as part of a group founded by the sister of a man convicted over grooming gang offences in West Yorkshire, appearing to suggest reporting on the rape gangs crisis is a bit racist. We also have useful idiots like this wandering the streets.
And then Palestine Action, some representatives will be able to give an oral hearing on Friday to prevent the ascension of their prescription. So watch this space, and as always, I cannot wait for the West to fall. Cannot wait for the West to fall, they say there.
And this bloke in Preston, I believe it was, over the weekend, now I would argue, he may disagree with this, but I would argue that he was being openly anti-Semitic. He talks about a European Jewish problem. Listen closely.
The story is not Hamas. The story is the 77-year colonial era project gone horribly wrong. Our problem, the European problem, was passed on to them. That's what we did. The European problem, the European Jewish problem, where the Europeans, they have been anti-Semitic for hundreds of years.
When you consider all that, have we actually learnt anything from 7/7? Are we in a better or worse position than we were on 7/7? It's all very well and good laying reeds and pulling a sad face and remembering it, but our politicians seem unwilling to actually name the problem, and they have, over the years, certainly not dealt with it. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We have journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone, another journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and the former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, do you feel as though we've learned any lessons? Did it stick in the craw a little bit watching Sir Keir Starmer and Sir Sadiq laying those reeds?
Of course, you know, I've thought a lot about this today. You know, 7/7 has become the forgotten atrocity, not for the victims, obviously, but because it raised horrendous questions about multiculturalism in this country and about Islamic extremism in this country. And unlike 9/11, which was perpetrated by people outside the country, this was perpetrated by people, by Muslims who had grown up in this country, who knew our values, who had grown up among our values, and yet wanted to destroy us. And I just feel like, and I heard some of the victims talking today, some of the survivors, saying they didn't feel they were allowed to grieve properly or say what they felt about it because it was Islamists which had committed the atrocity. And until this country reckons with that and deals with that, nothing is ever going to get better. You know, we have people on the left who tried to suggest at the time that this was understandable because it was in response to anti-Muslim sentiment in this country. Tosh. They were trying to say it was because of Britain's involvement in wars in majority Muslim countries. Tosh. This was people who were trying to destroy it. We haven't addressed the problem.
We've not. I would argue we've actually made it worse. And so now, if you look at those statistics which show that the most extreme Islamist groups in Britain are apparently the 18 to 34-year-olds, that's very much a homegrown problem. 850 or so Brits went to fight for ISIS. About 40% of them were allowed back. We've got an open border in the Channel for terrorists to just come and funnel across. We have learnt nothing, Jake, have we? But of course, we've had thoughts and prayers and we lit a candle, so that's great, isn't it?
So, look, I think I remember the attacks themselves. I was living in London, actually, at the time, and it was almost like a loss of the age of innocence, I think, here in the UK. I think up until that point, lots of people had bought into the idea that multiculturalism was only a positive thing. I'm not saying it's only a negative thing, but was only a positive thing. And I think since those horrific attacks, which will only seem like 5 minutes away for the people who are working and responding to it, or the victims, all political parties, and by that I mean the Labour governments, the coalition governments, the Conservative government, all political parties have not properly addressed the challenges that we have with Islamic extremism in this country.
Yeah.
And I think that now we have the issues with open borders. I think that's got to change.
Yeah, it is. I was going to read out a section of Sir Keir Starmer's statement. By the way, I should also say, and I do want to say, that from what I've seen from Reform UK and Nigel Farage himself, I haven't seen a mention of Islamist extremism from them either in this. I could be wrong about that, but I haven't seen that, and I know a lot of people are quite surprised by that. But Sir Keir Starmer's statement, Benjamin, those who tried to divide us failed. We stood together then and we stand together now against hate and for the values that define us of freedom, democracy and the rule of law. We have Sharia courts in Britain now.
Well, I mean, everyone remembers where they were when this happened. I can remember vividly. So I think Jake's description, or was it yours, that the end of the age of innocence is definitely true because it's changed everything since. Often when I get on the tube, I still, you know, it crosses your mind. And it's 20 years later and I was 11.
But is that not because we've obviously categorically not dealt with it and, in fact, the problem's got worse?
Well, I mean, The number of plots that get foiled is a couple of years ago. The head of MI5 said there was 31 plots, late-stage plots, so nearly happening plots in 1 year. So the one thing I would say is that the fact that we've had, I think we had the Westminster Bridge attack and the horrendous Ariana Grande attack, the fact that something quite so, something just like this London attack hasn't happened again is remarkable, and says there are a lot of people doing an incredible job to stop these people. But I do think there is a naivete about the fact that Islam is not the problem, but radical Islam is a problem in this country.
And that's getting worse, isn't it?
And I think when you fail to divide those two, the fact that most Muslims share our values and are just like everyone else and are decent people. But there are some that aren't, and if you don't say that out loud, then you let them spread.
The unassailable fact is 90% of terror deaths since 2000 in this country have been committed by Islamists. 75% of terror threats are by Islamists. And until this government confronts that and actually deals with it, we're going to have a problem. And can I just also say, we have a government currently that is trying to pass a blasphemy law where you're not allowed to criticise Islam, a religion much of which totally contravenes our beliefs and our culture, and yet there may come a time where we're not allowed to criticise it. So what is that going to mean for Islamic terror?
I want to make a point. There's a picture behind us here in the studio of Sadiq Khan and Keir Starmer looking very, very upset, laying the reeds. I mean, Sadiq Khan himself looks to be almost on the verge of tears, and maybe, you know, that's...
Sure he is.
That's genuine.
He's a Londoner born and bred.
OK, there you go. But then I have listed a couple of their legal back catalogues there now. And they, of course, say cab rank rule, they were just doing their job. Some of their clients might have made them feel very uncomfortable.
Exactly the same excuses as used at the Nuremberg trials, wasn't it? People who say that, you know, I was just doing my job, I was just doing what I had to do. I don't think that's acceptable. I'm a lawyer. First of all, the cab rank principle, I did a law degree, qualified as a lawyer, I worked as a lawyer. Certainly a new one on me, the idea that you have no choice other to represent people. It's new on me because it's not actually true.
But
Keir Starmer should level with people. Maybe he decided it was the right thing to do to represent these people, but you do actually have a choice. This lie that they're perpetuating, saying, I literally had no choice. It is untrue.
No, Benjamin, is that unfair? You know, is it unfair of me to raise those things about their legal back catalogue? They say in no uncertain terms, look, it was a moment in time, it was their job, they didn't necessarily particularly want to do it, etc. You know, is it unfair of me to say that actually it's a bit annoying maybe for some people in the British public to see them laying reeds given who they've represented in the past at times?
Well, yeah, of course it is. I think it's incredibly demeaning. I mean, you know, the idea that people... I think it's essentially racist when people try to claim, as Lee Anderson did, that Sadiq Khan... Lee Anderson said he was controlled by Islamists.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, by the way.
But that doesn't help anybody, and in their jobs they will have to sit down with people on the receiving end of these atrocities and listen to them. I'm sure that is why Sadiq Khan looked like he was crying when he was doing it. And
can we trust anything that both Khan and Starmer say when we know both of them are dependent on the Muslim vote to keep them in power? That to criticise Islam or Muslims in any way, shape or form is very damaging for them personally. Can we trust what they say?
Well, I mean, at the last election, Keir Starmer, who has a Jewish family, by the way, was explicit about his support for Israel, and he got lots of backlash. And so I don't think you can have it both ways. He was heavily criticised by the Muslim community, and he continued to stand by that point before the election. Okay. And actually, Labour's Muslim vote fell by 10% in the last election. So he stood up for it when he was at risk.
Yeah, I worry that firstly, the problem has got bigger, and I think it has got bigger, unquestionably, that we've allowed that problem to fester. There was a moment in time, there have been several moments in time since where we could maybe have drawn a line on the kind of hardcore Islamist element, not to talk about ordinary Muslims, but the Islamist element there. And that if something happens like that again, Jake, I don't think the public reaction is going to be, let's light a candle and say hate won't win and everything will just carry on and we won't let people divide us. I think it'll be a very different public reaction, Jake.
Let's make no bones about it, though. Muslims in this country, law-abiding, peace-loving Muslims, were as disgusted as every other person.
Some of them were probably killed. I mean, I can't remember the ethnicities of all of them, but I think they were.
I was involved, you know, I was there and involved in the Westminster Bridge attack. These are horrendous things in society. And so actually Keir Starmer is right when he says we shouldn't allow people to divide us. He's absolutely right. But he should also stand on the side of British public, whether they're Muslim, Christian or anything else, who say We cannot allow this to fester in our
name
society.
it. Why couldn't they name what the attack was? It was a jihadi attack.
Today is a memory day. Every other day should be dealing with the problem.
Well, whatever happened to the war on terror that we were supposed to be waging? That just withered away. You know, that scheme Prevent, which was supposed to de-radicalise people, failed miserably. We haven't tackled the problems of 7/7.
Can I just say,
very quickly.
I was in Syria in February, the most beautiful country, and a young man I met there said, everyone will think we're all terrorists in Syria. We're not. The most victims of Islamic terrorism are other Muslims. We know just how tough it is.
OK, all right, well, there we go. Well, I'm very keen to see what people's views are at home or if you're listening on the radio, etc., about the response to it today and all of that. I'll stress again, you know, we've spoken there about, you know, some of the track record there of the Prime Minister and Sir Sadiq Khan as well. You know, again, there's no indication, obviously, that they are on the side of Islamists or anything like that, and it was part of their job in the legal profession. So there we go. But in what is remarkably not the biggest screeching U-turn I've ever had to do here, it is time now for an incredible cash giveaway. 54,321 quid. It's the Great British Giveaway. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
You have the chance to win our biggest cash prize to date in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax, and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, so coming up, we've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages and breaking news on the front page of The Sun. Could Prince Andrew be cleared over his links to the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein? I'll bring you all those details in just a few minutes. But before that, well, I've been looking forward to this, actually. I've got some shocking breaking news about the organisation that tried to call both me and GB News Islamophobic. And, well, they've been discredited, and I think it's about time that a few people were held to account for that, not least because it caused me a lot of personal safety issues. Don't go anywhere.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, how about meeting the new ABBA? It's what a lot of people are calling Dad Harmony. It's a new Swedish a cappella group that are the biggest TikTok sensation you can imagine. They are everywhere at the moment, and they join us now. Really good to see you all. With us, we have this morning Thomas, Michael, Sebastian, Peter and Adam. Not necessarily in that order, but I know. There we go. Gents, it's really good to see you. I've got to ask, first and foremost, how did you get started? How do you even get together and think, this is something we can do?
Yeah, it's actually all of a coincidence, to be honest. It was, we were friends, but we were Peter had a bachelor party. And like 10 p.m. or something, we started to sing. And I recorded that song. And for some reason, I put it out on my TikTok account with like 7 followers or something. And then it blew up and got like, the first video got 22 million views, I think.
beautiful.
Just
really
gorgeous.
beautiful.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Some breaking news tonight. A shocking report has claimed that a Muslim media watchdog is attempting to censor press coverage of stories involving Islam or Muslims. The Centre for Media Monitoring was set up to monitor how national broadcasters and newspapers report on Islam and Muslims. But according to research by the think tank Policy Exchange, the organisation is attempting to, quote, take control of the narrative about Islam. Now, the report accuses them of doing several things. So, suppressing accurate reporting about terrorism, including attacking newspapers for describing Islamic State as Islamists, attacking the BBC for calling the Westminster killer Khalid Massoud, I quote, Islamic extremist, and complaining that a newspaper called ISIS executioner Jihadi John a terrorist. So the centre claims that almost 60% of stories about Muslims are, quote, offending and negative. But, and this is the crucial bit, they count accurate, factual accounts of Islamist terror attacks in that figure. So its top three offenders are actually the news agencies Reuters, AP and AFP, but it claims that newspapers are one of the biggest drivers of Islamophobia, but in its entire 7-year existence, the Centre for Media Monitoring has secured just one forced correction from the newspaper watchdog, Ipso, and it attacks TV dramas for showing Muslim characters who are gay or dislike the hijab, and says that regulators should discourage content which, quotes, insults Islam. Well, you may remember that GB News, and indeed myself, is no stranger to the Centre for Media Monitoring. One of their reports last year, which looked specifically at GB News, was littered with inaccuracies. I mean, just one of them is that they attributed the quote on the screen right now to me, except I never said those words, and I was not even in the GB News studio, let alone even in the country, on the day they claim I uttered those words. And part of their report had consequences for my life. It massively increased the threat to my life. Now, I'm joined now by a lawyer and commentator, Hamid Akunji, who I'm at pains to say, by the way, has absolutely nothing to do with these organisations, but whose views I'm quite keen to get. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Look, when you see all of that, and they are accused of exaggerating this so-called Islamophobia in the media, just trying to silence genuine criticism about genuine problems like terrorism, for example. What do you make of that?
I mean, I'm aware of the report that they've done, aware of their reporting on GB News, and the claim that they've made that GB News, over a 2-year period, has been responsible for half of all the Muslim sort of content out in the media. That was, I think, 6 months ago. The issue is the report you're quoting from is from the Policy Exchange. Now, the Policy Exchange itself is a rabidly critical Islamophobic institution. It has, in 2007, been caught by the BBC on Newsnight by Jeremy Paxman frequently making up receipts against mosques, suggesting that they were selling extremist material, and it was fraudulent. Now, the director at the time, Dean Godson, tried to put a rebuttal to that in front of the cameras with Mr. Paxman and failed, because the data was simply there, that they actually made up information. So I wouldn't take a report.
I get that may well have been the case previously, but when you look at the idea that Khalid Massoud, they didn't want him referred to as an Islamic extremist, this is the Centre for Media Monitoring now, or Jihadi John, they said that he shouldn't be a terrorist and stuff. I mean, that is patently ridiculous, isn't it? And if they are including that in their figures of, you know, basically Islamophobia in the media, well then that casts a serious shadow over, frankly, any of the facts that they have in there, isn't it?
I'm not a massive fan of the MCB, and I find them far too aligned with the Labour
This is the Muslim
Party.
Council of Britain you're talking about, yeah?
Exactly, affiliated to the monitoring group. So I'm no fan of bad, let's say, or inaccurate reporting on issues. But to counter one organisation's slight inaccuracies, let's say, and a qualitative inaccuracy with an organisation that's been caught fraud is quite a thing, basically. In terms of Islamophobia in the media, the Muslim Council of Britain sort of affiliate group, they are simply building on masses of academic articles which are from the United States and the UK, Cardiff University particularly, that shows a huge amount of Islamophobia in the media.
But doing so inaccurately, though, because what they would class in their view as an inflated conversation about Islam, as in just the religion of Islam, they included things that I'd said about, like, actual terrorist attacks, like Christmas market atrocities, things about, like, reports, for example, into numerous different areas from MI5 about the fact that there were Iranian sleeper cells there. They included that, for me personally, about, like, this is the amount of times that Patrick has banged on about Muslims, which is not really true, is it? And that helped to put a target on my back, which is a very, very real thing. And there are other inaccuracies about me, you know, misquoting me or things. So that, should they not apologise for this stuff, do you think?
We share that, in that where large platforms have put inaccuracies about people. And I've been having been the lawyer for Michael Azibilojo. I never was. And that resulted in somebody putting a knife in my door at one point, various death threats. So we share that in common, where inaccuracies about people have been put forward, and then, you know, actual risks turn into unfortunate realities. So we live in a world where, you know, when you put out information to Joe Public, and we have 67 million people in this country, and a lack of mental health resourcing around that, then there are going to be some nutters out there who then act on that, unfortunately.
But should they not apologise for that?
Well, certainly anything that's inaccurate should, of course, be apologised for. Unfortunately, the Politics Exchange never did apologise for the fraudulent things that took place even 17 years ago. So it'd be helpful if they actually apologise to the Muslim community for lying about 100 mosques in the country.
I mean, apparently the Centre for Media Monitoring has also criticised TV dramas, for example, for showing Muslim characters who don't want to wear hijab or who drink alcohol or who are gay. You know, it's kind of... Is it not a front kind of masquerading as quite a reputable... Well, the title itself, Centre for Media Monitoring, right? It sounds quite official, doesn't it? But it's not. I mean, they are at pains now to stress that they are no longer in any way affiliated with the Muslim Council of Britain. However, if you Google it right now, on the Muslim Council of Britain's website, it's got them a link to the Centre for Media Monitoring, and there is still a thing on Centre for Media Monitoring, there you go, about us. The Centre for Media Monitoring is a Muslim Council of Britain project. So you have to go looking for that. And I do wonder as well, Mr. Akunji, when there were a couple of quite establishment left-wing media types, Gavin Esler and Stuart Purvis, so former BBC, former Ofcom as well, who readily wrote the foreword to the bit that was about GB News and specifically mentioned me 17 times, in which there were massive errors and in which, as we've discussed, had a huge personal consequence for my safety out on the streets of Britain. You know, I really do wonder whether or not those people are, frankly, useful idiots for that group.
I mean, this will be no surprise, but GB News is a threat to existing media organisations. I go out of my way to make sure that I come on your show and
we appreciate it.
Well, no, I appreciate it, because I feel that, you know, despite the editorial, let's say, line on it, that you give everyone the right to say what they want to say, and hopefully those people will say things accurately. Unfortunately, this debate sort of casts a smokescreen over a real issue, which is Islamophobia being a real thing that some 6,000 victims last year suffered from, which was an increase of 75% from 2 years ago. And that is in a backdrop with real academic work from university establishments. And unfortunately, if you know, this particular outfit, which isn't university accredited information or peer-reviewed information, if that is going to, their inaccuracies should not be allowed or should not be used as a distraction from a very real consequence that you, on one hand, has also suffered, and myself, just as anecdotal background to the reality of the dangers that are out there.
Yeah, OK, well, look, thank you very much. It is always a pleasure to have you on. And I think it was important when discussing that, for a variety of different reasons, to have someone who's pretty level-headed about it. We might disagree on several things, fair enough, but it's good to have the chat. Mohammed Akunji there is a lawyer and a commentator. I've got a spokesperson here for the Centre for Media Monitoring saying that this report is nothing but a politically motivated hit job riddled with inaccuracies, distortions and smears. It comes from an organisation that has long sought to influence our media into negatively framing British Muslims. We're not surprised they're upset as we call them out. They misrepresent our record, do not deal with the facts we present and rely on guilt by association. Every major accusation falls apart under scrutiny, they say. It's laughable that they accuse us of censorship when our vision is simply responsible reporting on Islam and Muslims. Is that too much to ask? We stand by our rigorous findings and commitment to journalism serving the public interest. The Policy Exchange report includes a series of fabrications, in some cases defamatory claims. We urge you to check their claims independently before verifying. Now, on that point, that is really, really interesting, because two prominent establishment media types happily put their name to the Centre for Media Monitoring report last year that made false allegations about things I had, or as it turned out, actually not said. They were Gavin Esler, a former Newsnight presenter and award-winning journalist, and Stuart Purvis, a former media executive, Ofcom bigwig and ITN broadcaster. They were happy to write the foreword to that report, which had serious implications for my personal safety and the safety of my family. Not only has that report now been discredited, but also, it would appear, so has the Centre for Media Monitoring. I emailed them both personally today. Interestingly, neither has replied or expressed an interest in apologising. Well, I would politely suggest to both of those men that I am not going away, and they might as well front up to their actions sooner rather than later. Anyway, coming up, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, and there is some breaking news on the front of the Sun. Apparently, Prince Andrew might be cleared over the Jeffrey Epstein saga, so stay tuned for that.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat wave across Europe is increasingly becoming confined to eastern areas of the country. Temperatures here could locally still be 5-10 degrees above normal for the year. On the edge of that heat, though, there are some heavy thunderstorms breaking out for the Balkans and over the Alps. Generally further towards the west, though, temperatures now easing back towards average, but northerly winds bringing a touch of cloud to parts of Iberia, as well as Madeira and Tenerife. Generally, though, for many areas over the next few days, there will be a lot of sunshine around.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We will see some heavy showers clearing overnight, but clear spells and largely dry weather return by dawn, increasingly sunny and increasingly warm during the next few days. Now, we've got low pressure clearing to the east. That low pressure brought us some unsettled weather over the weekend, cool conditions as well. It continues to bring heavy showers overnight to eastern parts of the country, some thunderstorms and some persistent rain. But further west, largely clear and certainly more widely clear by dawn. Under those clear skies, a fresh start to the day on Tuesday, temperatures ranging between 8 and 13 Celsius. But plenty of sunshine around first thing, certainly across central parts of the UK. Start off with barely a cloud in the sky through the Midlands and central southern England. Either side of that, there will be some patchy cloud into West Wales, southwest England, and some showers running down the North Sea coast into East Anglia. Thicker cloud awaits across parts of western Northern Ireland, and that cloud also starting to drift into the Western Isles. Some patchy cloud into the north of Scotland, otherwise Scotland's largely cloud-free. Plenty of sunshine, and that sunshine causing temperatures to rise quickly through the morning. But there will be further showers into eastern England. They tend to fade away by early afternoon. Still some cloud here and thicker cloud across Northern Ireland and western Scotland. A few spots of rain associated with this. High teens in the northwest, where we've got the sunshine elsewhere, low 20s to mid-20s fairly widely. And then we start Wednesday with plenty of sunshine once again towards the southeast, thicker cloud towards the northwest, some outbreaks of rain, mostly light and patchy for western and northern Scotland as well as Northern Ireland. And that tends to fizzle away later in the day as higher pressure builds, and that higher pressure is going to lead to widespread sunny skies on Thursday and into Friday, and that means widespread hot air returning.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Right, let's do tomorrow's newspaper front pages, shall we? We start with the Metro. So the Metro go off of mushroom murderer. Targeted me 4 times. This is the lady who has been found guilty of killing loads of people with poisonous mushrooms, basically. So there you go. They go to the I newspaper. 50,000 children will be lifted out of poverty due to rebellion on welfare reforms. There's another one coming, isn't there? Another rebellion. There we go. The Express. Hypocrisy of Labour's homes plan. So they say that plans to sweep aside, quotes, blockers and build 1.5 million new homes have been branded hypocrisy on stilts after ministers previously opposed developments in those areas. So there we go. There's always receipts, isn't there, for that kind of stuff. The Daily Telegraph have gone for no borders between us, the King to tell Macron. So, we're going to talk about this in a second, but I think this might wind a few people up if the King does indeed say to Macron, there's no borders between us. Part of the problem, by the way, is that we clearly don't have a border, isn't it? Which is one of the problems. But anyway, next we've got The Sun. They go for Air Miles Andy cleared for takeoff. So apparently, he's free to fly, as the FBI has ended a probe into his links to notorious international paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. What does this mean for Prince Andrew? Rounding us off, we've got the Daily Mail, and they go for hand back our £771 million, Mr Macron, s'il vous plaît. And that is, I believe, in relation to... yeah, just basically the money we've given the French, isn't it? Yes, it's French, yes. I am fluent. It's French a fortune to not police the border. Anyway, there we go. Let's start with the Daily Telegraph, I think, if that's OK. So, I'll go into a bit more detail on this and I'll throw it your way, Carol. The King will tell Emmanuel Macron that there are no borders between Britain and France in their quest to solve complex threats. His Majesty will speak about the vital partnership between the countries and the challenges emanating from multiple directions, adding that we are friends and allies. What do you make of this?
Well, we're not really friends and allies. I mean, the King has to say this. He doesn't have any choice in the matter. You know, he has to... It's a state visit. Macron's going to be visiting the palace, no doubt, state banquets, whatever. He has to play nice with him. But, you know, France is not our friend, nor our ally. They treat us like dirt. They take our money and they do nothing. You know, the Telegraph are quoting here 750 million quid in 10 years. It's nearer $1 billion. And we've got nothing forward. You know, the number of people now who are coming into this country has risen tenfold since we started this agreement with France. They're no friends of ours. They never have been. And this pretend thing he has going with Starmer, he thinks Starmer is a fool, as does the entirety of the EU. And they have embarrassed him yet again this week. So, no, I don't believe a word. I'm going to put Charles is in a difficult position. He doesn't have a lot of choice.
Go on, Benjamin.
Well, I think it's totally wrong to say that France isn't a friend or an ally because, you know, if our nearest neighbours aren't, then we've got serious problems.
Well,
you know,
we do have serious problems. We have
Look at your history, young man.
Coming here every day currently.
We also, our economies and our people are heavily interlinked. There are more French people in London than most French cities.
And you've forgotten the lead up to Brexit, how they tried to stuff us at every move, our European allies.
But so they should,
they
because
tried to wreck our country.
They were acting in their own self-interest, like any business deal would.
So they're hardly allies, are they, if they're acting in self-interest?
Well, we all act in our self-interest when we're competing, but they are clearly a friend.
Self-interest for the bloc, and because they wanted our billions of pounds.
Well, look, if you think Britain would do better by just telling everyone near us to shove off, then I'd like to see what the country looks like under Carol Malone.
Let's drag it back down to
what I was just going to point out
was this stuff.
Something that always sticks in my head is when Her late Majesty died, I thought Macron gave the most beautiful speech in commitment to her, and he sang on Champs-Élysées, what's it called?
Champs-Élysées.
That's it. He stood there for God Save the Queen the day after her death, which I just thought was incredibly moving and a beautiful tribute. So, you know, I think he's earned a great deal of respect for that.
You've heard PR.
So look, this,
to perform a foreign league,
It's an unfortunate use of words.
This is it. I wonder about the choice of language.
I think it is an unfortunate use of words, and you know, it comes on the back of the King doing other things. You remember we discussed it here on this show, the visit he did with Angela Rayner to the social housing project. And I think all politicians, you know, have to respect the fact that the King shouldn't be involved in politics and work very, very hard to ensure that he is king of everyone in this United Kingdom, whoever they happen to vote for, whether they vote or not. And I just think it is an unfortunate use of words by the King, and it's not the first time this has happened. And I wonder whether, you know, he's being lent on by our political leaders in a particular cause or other.
I think he has in this particular. But remember, Charles has always been politically involved. Remember all the spidery letters they were called when he sent years ago. He was contacting politicians every single day, telling them the things he wanted done, and he's not supposed to do that. The Queen never did.
I mean, I don't want to... I mean, look, I'm a massive monarchist, and I know that the overwhelming majority of GB News viewers and listeners, as indeed myself, you know, are you know, pro-King, like we were pro-Queen in the past, and we want to see the royal family continue. I think you can be all of those things, but still have some concerns about some of the things and some of the language that King Charles has used, and perhaps some of the causes that he has either willingly or otherwise endorsed, and whether or not he's always been in touch with his base, shall we say, when it comes to certain things. We are a bit pressed for time, because I overran earlier, given the fact that it was quite a useful opportunity to hit back at a group of people that I believe had basically smeared me. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Air Miles, Andy. It looks like Prince Andrew might be about to be, or has been, taken off the FBI list in relation to the Jeffrey Epstein links. There's also a story in The Guardian, which is I'm nervous of Labour's direction. It looks as though Labour's biggest donors might be about to pull the plug. So, don't go anywhere. So stay tuned.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Tell me now, are you concerned about these driverless cars, Tim, that are going to be put into operation in London by as early as next year?
Well, Uber is preparing to test fully self-driving taxis on London's roads for the first time. By 2026, I have an observation there that if you look at Elon Musk over the last 5 or 6 years, kept promising that there were going to be driverless cars, the norm in America, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'd be very surprised if by 2026 that's actually on the streets of London. I'm more intrigued, though, if they are driverless robotic cars, if they're still going to give you a review. You know, you get your 5 stars at the end if you were a good passenger. Who's going to review how good you are once you're in these cars?
Would you trust it? Would you take one?
I think
I would, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Really?
Would you, Claire?
I know, I'm a bit reticent.
I'm a bit nervous about it.
Yeah, accepting a driverless
I think
car.
what they do eventually is they'll take any joy out of driving that there is. You get you won't get in, you feel the smell, get the gear stick. You know, I mean, a car is a great joyous thing
I don't take any joy from
to drive.
Yeah.
I take no joy. It's awful.
What?
Such a chore.
Is that because
driving.
Are you a good driver?
No, I'm a terrible
driver.
driver.
Why?
So maybe this could be a good thing for me.
I think it's
I mean,
the
you see the other
drivers
side of
that take the joy out of it sometimes.
Oh, I just think, can you imagine a glitch in the Matrix with a driverless car? What on earth
You'd have to hop in the
Well,
front
you and I
seat.
live in Chiswick,
Yeah.
and the Chiswick High Road, like lots of high roads in many towns and villages.
Well, it's the bus
across...
lanes that's a problem with
Well, they've
Chiswick High
closed
Road.
all those down now, and if an ambulance goes down, there is carnage trying to get through to whoever they're needing to treat.
Or in King
So
Street,
it's
if a bus
dangerous.
tries to overtake a bus or anything else, you can't do it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Let's rattle through the remainder of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The Times have got PM set to press Macron for one-in, one-out deal. As we revealed earlier, it looks like that deal is definitely not going to happen because it can't. The EU will block it. The Guardian goes for a few stories on the front pages of there. They have gone for "I'm nervous of Labour's direction," says donor. So Labour donors might be leaving. In fact, I think on that, let's just stick with that, shall we, for now? So it looks as though the billionaire backers are moving, switched allegiance from the Conservatives. So Labour's most high-profile billionaire backer, who switched from the Tories, has said he's increasingly nervous about the government's direction and is in despair of politicians. So this is John Caldwell, who founded Phones for You. He now feels like the nation. He backed Labour and now he's had his fingers burnt.
Yeah, I've met John Caldwell a number of times, and he's a very sensible guy, a very down-to-earth, sensible guy, apart from the fact he's worth £1.5 billion. And I'm amazed he ever went with Labour anyway. I'm amazed he didn't see through Labour before the election and didn't understand what they were about. Did
he switch allegiances under your watch as Tory party chairman, Joe?
I think it may well have been. I think the truth is we've got to accept that the Conservative Party had made itself completely unelectable, and even people who were long-term big financial backers of it just felt that they couldn't support it. This is potentially quite good news for Kemi Badenoch if
it is.
Donors start to return to the Conservative Party. I see that he says he won't support reform because he's very concerned about climate change. So it may potentially be good news for Kemi, and, you know, watch this space.
OK, all right.
I mean, I can't imagine there's going to be a great surge of people going to the Conservatives right now because, you know, Kemi Badenoch has a 5% approval rating. I'm not sure their messages...
What's Keir Starmer, out of interest?
-38 or something.
Oh, right. -54.
Oh, there you go.
We'll take that.
Conservative estimate, OK.
But I mean, it's interesting because he was a long-term Conservative supporter, and so it kind of epitomised that election, someone that was committed to the other side as him coming over. But the reason he's doing this is concerns about a wealth tax to try and fill this £5 billion welfare hole that Rachel Reeves now has. Yeah. So it's probably, I suspect, it's a bit of lobbying to try and stop that policy.
And I'm sorry to say this, this is also stupidity. What did he expect?
Exactly.
What did he expect? Anyone who went out and voted Labour at the last election, you're getting what you deserve. People could have seen this coming a mile off.
Maybe he cares passionately about smashing the gangs. Maybe that's why he chose to support the Labour Party.
I suspect he was sick of a flatlining economy.
Also, there was a poll this week, wasn't it, that put the reform at 30% and I think the Tories are right down at 20. So, you know, it is madness not to support reform.
OK, all right. Well, look, thank you very much to my wonderful panel. Tremendous to have you on the show, as always. A range of views, but don't go anywhere because there's a whole load of news that we didn't have time to discuss in this show. Labour's second homes plan, sorry, I should say, is in absolute second homes plan. Some of them have got second homes. Anyway, that's in tatters. They're accused of hypocrisy. Also, Air Miles Andy on the front of the Sun. Prince Andrew apparently cleared by the FBI. We're going to be talking about all of that and much more on Late Edition. And apparently we might be hearing from President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu as well, so that could be some big breaking news for you. We've got it all. So before that, though, we have to find out, don't we? What's the weather got in store for all of us tomorrow? Or, especially, as Jacob Rees-Mogg would say, in Somerset. Stay tuned.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We will see some heavy showers clearing overnight, but clear spells and largely dry weather return by dawn, increasingly sunny and increasingly warm during the next few days. Now, we've got low pressure clearing to the east. That low pressure brought us some Unsettled weather over the weekend, cool conditions as well. It continues to bring heavy showers overnight to eastern parts of the country, some thunderstorms and some persistent rain. But further west, largely clear and certainly more widely clear by dawn. Under those clear skies, a fresh start to the day on Tuesday, temperatures ranging between 8 and 13 Celsius. But plenty of sunshine around first thing, certainly across central parts of the UK. Start off with barely a cloud in the sky through the Midlands and central southern England. Either side of that, there will be some patchy cloud into West Wales, southwest England, and some showers running down the North Sea coast into East Anglia. Thicker cloud awaits across parts of western Northern Ireland, and that cloud also starting to drift into the Western Isles. Some patchy cloud into the north of Scotland, otherwise Scotland's largely cloud-free. Plenty of sunshine, and that sunshine causing temperatures to rise quickly through the morning. But there will be further showers into eastern England. They tend to fade away by early afternoon. Still some cloud here and thicker cloud across Northern Ireland and western Scotland. A few spots of rain associated with this. High teens in the northwest, where we've got the sunshine elsewhere. Low 20s to mid-20s fairly widely. And then we start Wednesday with plenty of sunshine once again towards the southeast, thicker cloud towards the northwest, some outbreaks of rain, mostly light and patchy for western and northern Scotland as well as Northern Ireland. And that tends to fizzle away later in the day as higher pressure builds, and that higher pressure is going to lead to widespread sunny skies on Thursday and into Friday, and that means widespread hot air returning.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron's visit tomorrow is being absolutely savaged by the right-wing press. The Daily Mail hand back our 771 million quid. They're urging that to Emmanuel Macron. The Sun goes off on a breaking story about Air Miles Andy. Prince Andrew apparently has been cleared by the FBI over his links to Jeffrey Epstein, and there's a lot of stuff on the front pages about the mushroom murderer. And watch your phone, because a big alarm might go off on it very shortly. Stay tuned.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening and welcome to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition and breaking tonight. Oh gosh, it's a national emergency alert. Yes, the government will be testing the national emergency alert on all of your phones very soon, but I'll tell you when and the precise time so you don't have to panic. Meanwhile... The front page of the Daily Mail. Hand back our £771 million, Mr Macron, s'il vous plaît, as the Prime Minister battles to save his one-in, one-out migrant deal with the French. Emmanuel Macron, of course, is arriving tomorrow for a state visit. Meanwhile, the Sun go for Prince Andrew has been cleared by the FBI and is set to end his self-imposed travel ban and return to being Air Miles Andy. Plus, anyone for some beef Wellington? Well, you may not want to after you hear what's on the front of the Metro. We might also be getting a live chat from President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu as well, so we'll take that if it happens. But on my panel this evening, we've got GB News contributor and comedian Leo Kearse, we've got journalist and broadcaster Christo Fufas and political commentator Andy Twells. But first, let's get those headlines with Sam Francis.
Hello and a very good evening to you. Just after 11 o'clock, the top story today. We are going to be taking a look at the commemorations in London today as the capital marked the 20-year anniversary of the 7/7 bombings, with a service held today at St Paul's Cathedral, where the names of all 52 members of